Hello everyone. So for today, we will discuss about the network security groups. So and there will be another concept like application security group. So what is meant by security group? So how it is going to be impact our application flow and how it could help us to have a better security for our application from the internet and even inside the our virtual network, we can also control our applications from the accessing the unwanted services in the same VNet. So for all these things, we are going to control the security with the help of the security group. Okay. So how it's going to be? Let's see. So first of all, let me create a virtual machine. So I'm just going with the basic configurations, okay? And I'm planning to create a Windows server, 64-bit, and I'm using the standard. And let me create username. Short user. So for now, so I'm just allowing every port. Okay, so hoping you know the port, right? So port is kind of a gate. So the inside the resource. So that actually allowing the incoming traffic and allowing the outgoing traffic from the network and to the network. Sorry, from the device and to the device. Okay, so we just enable all the ports for now. So ideally, we are going to controlling this with the none, and then we enabling the required ports on demand. Okay. For now, I'm just allowing all the ports here. So if you see, if you observe here, so previously when I go ahead with the default one, so it enabled the RTP. Right. So because RDP is the port that is responsible for a Windows server that will be enabled to have a remote desktop connection. Okay. So for that, it is by default it is allowed. And now I'm just going ahead with the same RDP port enabled here. And let me just go and review the and create the virtual machine. I'm just going all other things as a default one. Okay. Let me check the networking also. So if it is possible, we will deploy this VM in a particular VNet and particular subnet so that we can have a control over the security with the additional security functionalities like NSC. Okay, so let me go to the networking. So if you see this network, I'm not assigning any existing one, but it by default it is taking a new virtual network is going to be created. At the same time, the default subnet is happening, so it is creating. So these two are newly created. So and one more thing. So if you see the network NIC network security group. Okay, so it is showing like a none. So sorry, basic. Okay, so if you don't want to have any security group, then you just go with none. Okay, and if you see here the public inbound ports, it means like all the incoming traffic coming to this particular VM from the as a input. So as a incoming traffic. So that is allowed from all the ports. Okay, so that is it just enabled with the allow select reports, but so here we allowing the RDP. So everyone who is coming to the this particular VM and who is accessing and trying to get into the VM with this particular port is allowed. So that access is allowed. Okay, and right now I'm just going ahead with all configurations as default. So let me create it now. Okay. So validation pass and creating the VM. The service that allows you to allow or deny the traffic. To allow or deny the traffic that was sent from the Azure resource to other resource or from the other resources to our resource. So simply in between the Azure resources, the request coming into the service or going outside of the outside from the service, that's going to be controlling with a service of network security group. So I'm just going to the resource. Okay, so agent is not ready yet. So let me go to the troubleshoot why it is not. Restart it now then. Okay, so VM got restarted. Let me refresh. Okay. So here the public IP, this is the public IP, so which we can use to connect from the public network. Okay, so I'm using the remote desk connection because I'm connecting to a Windows server, and I'm using the RDP because this connection will be allowed only through that particular port, which is 900. And okay, if you see, I'm able to log into the VM. Okay. First of all, if you can see, right, so I'm able to log into the VM and everything is able to. So I'm able to see everything on the VM side. Okay. So if you disable this public IP, so there is no way he can identify this. Okay. First thing is we will not allow the public IP whenever we have such kind of requirement of the outside traffic should not be allowed. And one more thing, if you don't want to allow these virtual machines to access even in the VNet, so this particular VM is deployed in a particular virtual network. Even in the in this virtual network also, you don't want to allow other resources or other users from the resources which are deployed on the same virtual network. So then we are going to controlling this with the security group. Now, if you see here, you can see the security groups. There is no. Now, let me go to the networking. So if you see network settings, load balancer, application security group, network manager, and all, right? So I'm just going with the security and network settings. Okay. If you see application security 0, load balancer 0, public IP is enabled. Private IP is also enabled. So private, hoping that you aware, right? So private IP is the one like which will be taken by resources when this VM is accessing or trying to accessing this VM inside the virtual network. Then they're supposed to use this private IP. Okay. And if you see, there is a network security group that is Azure 900 VM NSG. So this is also by default created when we creating the VM. And if you observe here, so there are two things on the on the security group. One is inbound security route and outbound security route. So inbound security route is nothing but the traffic that coming into the our particular VM. So what kind of traffic can be allowed, and what is the port numbers that we can use, and what is the protocol that we allow, and what is the name of the connection, and what is the priority, and from which source I am allowing the network I am allowing the network flow into the resource, and what is the destination that it's supposed to go, and all these actions are going to be considered in the inbound security group. Similarly, so what traffic or what kind of request that can be allowed to go out from the instance or go out from the resource. So that's going to be controlled from the outbound route. Okay, so inbound security routes are nothing but these routes are going to controlling the incoming traffic to the resource, and outbound security routes are going to controlling the outgoing traffic from the instance or resource. Now, if you see, I told you, right? So this is a responsible because of this security rule update, we are able to log into the VM. Now, if I delete this, okay, let me change this, okay? So let me change this to save. Okay, what I am doing, so I'm not allowing this RDP. Okay, now let me refresh this now. Okay, if you see, it is denied. Now, let me log in here. Ideally, yeah. If you see, this is not allowing me and it got disconnected. Let me Let me log in back. Yeah, if you see, it is now not allowing me to log in because the RTP connection was denied in the inbound security rules. Okay, so this is how the security rules are going to be implemented. And how about other security? So how about there is clearly mentioned like a source for any. So for this RTP, and we mentioned it as a any. So it is going to be if I don't want to allow this connection from all the networks or from all the sources, but I want to update or I want to update the security rule to a specific source, so that from that particular source only this particular VM is able to accessible. So then we need to add that rule here. Let me add that now. Inbound security rules. And if you see here, I'm just making the change here only. Let me open. So here I mentioned the source. Instead of source, I can go ahead with the IP address. So if I mention the IP address means, so everything, it's supposed to be in the same VNet, right? So we have already defined one virtual network, and virtual network is having a particular range of IPs. And inside that particular range of IPs, we will define a set of subnets. Okay. So if you are going to define a particular source IP address, so this is a place where you just giving the IP address. So, and it's supposed to be in the same virtual network that we need to be remember. Okay. Okay. And so if you allow this, you just mentioned this instead of any masking value, so you just updated this to okay is not valid, and 26. Okay. So yes. Okay. So this is the subnet range inside the VNet. And so if you define this, so inside this particular subnet, there will be a list of IPs. From all those IPs, this particular VM, agent 900 VM is going to be accessible. And that's considered as a source. And from other subnets, it will not be accessible. So, as I mentioned, like this is a subnet range. So, from all these IP addresses, you will be able to access this particular VM. If you don't want that and you want only a particular VM, then you just need to update the source IP address as one of the IP. Okay. So, from this particular IP, your VM is can be accessible, and this is a source port. And if you see, so here the destination, right? So what is the purpose of this destination? Like, see, you can access any inside this net in the subnet. Okay, so it means like from this source IP, and you will be allowed to any destination in the particular network security. Using this network security group, so in the subnet that associated to this security rule. Okay, and let me save now. Now you will be able to access this from this particular IP. Then only from this particular IP only you will be accessing this particular VM. Okay. So this is how the security group will work. And so if you see how it looks like, so let me. Okay. So let's assume, so we have one application that having the web application and the middleware, and we have a database. Let's assume this is the structure, this is the tier involved in our application. So let me take that. Okay. So this is one front-end server. So I can consider it as a web app. So similarly, I have one more web app because so ideally all the time like we generally recommend, right? So people to have a backup, right? So that our application can work effectively. So let me take this and copy and create it and paste it. Okay. Now if you see, these are the two web app services which are expected to function as a front end for our application, and these two together are expected to work. Now we have one more logic app. Let's take a logic app here. Okay, so it means like where we actually deploying our code changes with respect to the functionality of the application. And we also have database. Okay, so this is how our application looks like now. So when I consider my application is expected to run privately, then what I need to do? So I need to deploy this all in a particular VNet. So let me try it better. So now let me change. So it means like from here, from the outside, if someone requested, right? So someone is trying to access in this. So this is user, okay, or internet. So if someone is trying to get this application access, right? So then what is going to be? He is sending the request. He is sending the request to front end, correct? Now, so he is sending the request to front end. As these two are functioning okay, so we deploy two web app services in one particular subnet, let's assume. Okay, similarly, we deployed database in a different subnet. So this is subnet 1, this is subnet 2. And I want this logic app also in a different subnet. Okay, so subnet 1, subnet 2, sorry, subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3, and all these are expected to be in a one particular VNet. Okay, this is my VNet. Now, if you see, this is how my application is deployed on the cloud. Now, let me go back. Okay. So now I want to have control what are all the services are expected to be accessible by the internet. So ideally, we will not require directly to connect to the DB, right? So we generally contacting the web app services which are available in the front end. So we are enabled a network security group at this subnet level that will allow the access from internet, right? So I will, so even I can also do that for all the services, like it can be done for DB and also for the logic app also. But as per the standards, we are going to controlling the access to this particular subnet only. Okay, so this is one flow, and whenever you requested from internet to front end, so immediately from the front end server to it's going to the logic app and get connected with the logic app and try to find out or try to get the data from this logic app through the logic app that available in the DB. Okay, now if you see, so this is to and fro direction. So internet request coming to the web app, from web app to logic app, and logic app to DB. See, you may ask me, when it is possible to directly contact the web app, why don't internet can connect directly to the DB? Yes, that is also available. So that can also be done. So DB directly can contact, sorry, internet can directly contact logic app itself, and internet can contact directly DB also. But so this is the way like we implementing the security groups and controlling the what are all the traffic that supposed to be come and go out from the services or resources. So that is the reason. So I will enable a network security group here. So if you remember, network security groups are at the subnet level, not at the VNet level. Okay. So I will implement a NSG here. So network security group. So this is one network security group here. Okay, so that will allow the access to this particular web app services, and at the same time, this network security we are disabling. So this we are deleting, because I don't want internet to from the internet. No one supposed to be access the logical. Similarly, I don't want the same from internet to DB. So that is the purpose we are implementing the network security group here. And from web app to logic app, a connection is established. And similarly, from web app to DB can also be done. So if it is also you want to have that configuration, then you need to implement a security group here. Okay. So ideally, so this is the best practice, like DB access is supposed to be get through the logic app, and this is how it looks like. And we are going to implementing the NSG at every subnet range, so that in the NSG we are going to allowing an inbound security rule of logic app IP and allow the allowed number port and with a priority, so that it will be accessible only from the logic app, not from any other services in the VNet. So there will be other subnets, and there will be other subnets and other resources which are belonging to some other functionalities or other services, other application purposes. But for our application, so these are the three services are expected together, and this is the how this is the workflow is expected to go through while there is a new request coming from the internet. Okay. Application security group I mentioned, right? So network security group I mentioned, right? If you are making it the changes at the application level, then the same security group we can call it as application security group. Let me confirm you with the diagram. Okay. So as I mentioned, so it's basically security group that's going to control the security, that's going to control the traffic flow into the subnet. Whereas if you mention this security group with a with a configurations with respect to the network IP or within the virtual network, then you call it as a security network security group. If it is a application level, and that's going to grouping our logical application services or application servers. For example, here web apps we are having two. So we grouping these together with a security group at a subnet. So that is subnet is we generally calling as a application security group. Okay. So ideally both are same, but when you are going with a group of logically same kind of services together, then and we are applying the same security group at a group of resources, then you can call it as a application security group. That's it for today. Maybe we will connect tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.